live. In the live stream. In the live stream. Doing the stuffs and the things and the stuffs and the things in the live stream. Because it's a live stream. Talking about the theisms and the atheisms and the gods and the not gods and the whatnots and the stuffs and the do's and the stuff and the things. Yeah. Because it's a live stream. In the live stream. Doing the live stream. For the purpose of a live stream. In a live stream. I think that about covers it. Gesundheit. In the live stream. Do you have any good evidence for God, Mama?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't.
I sometimes wonder what would happen if, like, we went to, like, a haunted house or something, and something just supernatural and spooky happened, like a rock floating that, like, couldn't be explained. It's like, what would I do? Oh, do you got cook on your blanket?
No.
Hole? How do you have a hole? Oh, just split the seam. Just unsplit it. Was that where a tag is or something?
What's the hood?
Well, you just sew the seam, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it. You know how to sew good.
Yes and no. It did, but didn't split at the seam, you see.
I'm sure you can still figure something out.
I could fix it.
You can do it.
I'm a little off, but...
You won't be able to tell. Well, you might, but, like, other people won't. Wah. Wah. Hot.
What if I just hang out back here? All creepy like.
I feel like you're too giggly to be back there all creepy like.
Just
Yeah, something like that. Who's that hooded figure? Right there.
Stop. I do not sound like that.
I didn't say this time that you did.
This time.
This time.
This time. I
did
know
not.
that's your voice for me, and it is not accurate.
This time. Stems from our time hanging out with Morgan. I think that's the voice that he would use for you.
Yeah,
so now
that is the voice he would use for me all the
she's-
time. Still not accurate.
I'm Taylor. I try to sound like Toad from Mario when I'm doing it.
Not accurate.
That's my go-to.
Not accurate.
I don't know if that matters.
Unacceptable.
Unacceptable. You know, it's also unacceptable. Hello. Not having good evidence for a God and yet still believing in a God. How does that work? You're using the charger. That's okay. I don't think I need it.
I gave it to you. I just wanted to get your shit charged up before your...
We'll see if I need it.
Okay. Stop climbing up the
Stop
couch.
scratching the couch. Stop scratching the couch. Don't scratch the couch. Stop it.
Kitty cat driving me nuts.
She shaved off one of her claws. Isn't that like the purpose of like scratching part of it? It's like-
Kinda.
or one of them.
Kinda, yeah.
It's a live stream. Any theists, evidences for God. Any. I don't have any. I got nothing. I got nothing.
I got a Halloween themed hoodie.
You got a Halloween themed
Blanket.
hoodie. That is pretty solid.
One of
That's
those
pretty
like
solid.
blanket hoodies.
Stop scratching the couch. I am still getting comments on videos. On my video about how all the Abrahamic religions worship the same God. They just went different directions with it. And I am still getting comments of like, this one. Not accurate. The Jews and Muslims worship the same God. Most Christians worship Jesus as God. Jesus, who's supposed to be the same God as the God of the Old Testament. The same. I don't, it's, people keep disagreeing with me by saying how they're different. And I said, that was my whole thing, is they all worship the same God. They just go different directions with it. I know we've developed it into our own little stories, but it's the same God, the God of Adam, the God of Noah, the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, the God from the Genesis story, the God from the flood, the God from the Exodus in Egypt, the God from Sodom and Gomorrah. It's the Abrahamic God that Jews, Muslims, and Christians all worship. They just go different directions with it. And I keep getting so many people, not so many, but like, you know, one every few days, which is so many for a small content creator like me, who just keep, and it's an old video. I don't even know why it's still in circulation. I'm not going to complain, but just so many. Just, no, you're wrong because they're different. I know they're different. I said that. I said it drives me insane. Like every few days, I'll just get another one. It's just like, future. And then like 9 days ago, somebody just put, you know, for God so loved the world that he sent his only son. I know. Because we changed the story and made it different. I know. That's the thing. It's just I don't know. Just so many people. Maybe that's just a pet peeve of mine that I guess I really have only had to deal with in that thing. It's just like, don't disagree with me. And then agree with me in your reasoning for disagreeing with me. It's just I don't understand. I feel like Christians scare you into becoming one of them because if you don't, you burn in hell. Which, by the way, isn't mentioned as a place in the Bible. It's a metaphor. It's a little fuzzy, you know, the concept of hell in the Bible. But it is pretty fucked up that Christianity has relied so heavily on manipulation and indoctrination and fear tactics. It's one of the reasons it's so important to raise your kids Christian. Gotta get that stuff deep into their brain before they grow up and know better, because it's then going to be harder to get your hooks into them. Not impossible by any measure, but harder. Because it's easy, because when you're a kid, you don't know how the world works. You don't understand what's going on in the world. And so you rely on older people to explain to you how the world works. So if you have older people explaining to you your entire life that, yes, this magical way is how the world works, sure. You know, and things like, yeah, God lives in a realm beyond time and space. Yeah, angels exist. Miracles happen. Just become like, all right, it's more easily acceptable because you've been raised your whole life to think that that's the type of world that you live in. That's the type of stuff that happens every day, all the time. That's just facts. But, you know, it's not. And there's nothing in a way that we've demonstrated it to be so. I'm open to, you know, maybe there is something out there. Maybe there is something else. Maybe there's a God. Maybe it's the Christian God. I don't know, but like, need that evidence. Need you to get me there. always forget. It didn't give anybody else, but that's okay. Changing from top chat to live chat. I wish I'm gonna rant for a second. I have the option of looking at 2 different chats. Top chat or live chat. Live chat is just all of the chats. Top chat is only the gooder ones, I guess. I don't really know why, but like it cuts some out. And somebody mentioned, well, it's great, for bigger creators, who their live section is completely flooded with chat. It's like, that's fine. I get it. I'm not that. So like, can I set live chat as my default? Because like I don't get a whole lot of engagement. I usually get a small enough number of engagement to the point where I can keep up with the different conversations. And then live chat as like, sometimes the top chat filters out like 10-20% of the chat. It's like, no, I need that.
You know what I need?
What do you need?
Spooky season.
I need spooky season too. I need to be in a new house decorating for spooky season.
Spooky season.
I need more shirts.
I want more blanket hoodies.
That's what I need.
I want more blanket hoodies.
Blanket hoodies.
Just.
It does look comfy.
It is so comfy. Yeah.
Just got
I'm all.
Halloween
I'm
fuzzy,
all comfy.
super fuzzy blanket hoodie.
Blanket hoodie.
Like the fuzzy Halloween blankets you might see at like the stores. It's that, but it's a hoodie. Be jealous. Or go like buy your own. I don't know how much it costs. Somebody mentioned in a comment a video. I don't remember what all I said in this video. The title is Leaving Christianity Because of Liberal Media, and how like that's what conservatives think and Christians think, even though it's not how it works. And they said, this commenter said, this video reminds me of the Simpsons meme. Am I the reason why people are leaving this religion? No, it's social media's fault. Yeah. What made you question the existence of God? Diving into trying to learn more arguments and apologetics and arguments, for and against the existence of a God, and listening to like debates and whatnot and all of this stuff, and not, really trying to critically think about it and analyze these things, and not getting good evidence, getting sufficient evidence.
That's annoying.
I remember even, what?
If I go to like refresh your thing, it resets my chat filter to the top, back to the top.
Oh, that's
chat.
annoying.
That's annoying.
But even when I started this content, I was an atheist when I started this content, but I was like pretty freshly an atheist, and I'm like, surely there's good arguments for a God out there, right? Like surely there are, and I'm gonna start making this content saying that there's not, and I'm just gonna get obliterated, by people just flooding the comment section of like, no, you're an idiot. Here's like actual good evidence for a God, and then I'd be like, oh damn, you're right, and like I'm an idiot, and like, whatever, but that didn't happen. And then, almost 3 years later, it still hasn't happened. And me continuing to dive into, trying to learn arguments for and against the existence of a God, and still, I'm trying, and still not getting anything. I think after like my first year, I'm sitting here like, oh, this is really just it. Like this, it's Aquinas, it's Kalam, and like arguments like that, and it's like, that's it. That's like the best we got. Not good. So yeah, it was just the slow realization of like, there's really just nothing, is there? I have read The Case for Christ. It's awful. And
Not
you,
a compelling case for Christ.
not a compelling case for Christ. And you won't hear me be so blunt and perhaps rude, very often in my responses and whatnot to stuff. But Lee Strobel's book actually is just awful.
You did not like
No, I
You
didn't.
did not like it.
I didn't, and I was warned about it, because some of my the atheist content creators that I watch were saying, no, it's garbage, it's garbage, it's garbage. But I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe there's something there. You know, maybe there's something that I can at least learn, or some good arguments. Like maybe I can like piece, because I'm the type of person where, even the various religions, I think there's some good things to learn from various religions. So I'm like, let's read the book. Right out the gate, we have Strobel talking about his life as an atheist and how he just had his sinful lifestyle that he wanted to hold on to and whatnot. And I'm thinking that's a common like theist misconception of atheism. That's not great. But oh well, first couple pages, let's not judge it yet. And then I kept reading. And he's like, well, surely, there's, this, surely, science can explain this. And he goes, surely evolution is a good explanation of how life began. Evolution doesn't explain how life began. It explains everything that happened after life began. So I'm just like, you're misfiring here and there. And then the entire book was Strobel sitting down, basically interviewing professional Christians and like giving like their degrees in theology and whatnot. And he would say, I have a question about this. And they'd say, it's this, this, this. He goes, well, what about this? And they go, this, this. And he'd be like, that's a good point. That's a good point. And he would just let them, it was very one-sided. And it was just them making arguments, the majority of which I've already heard and heard better arguments against, and him saying, damn, yeah, that's a good argument. That's a good argument at the end of the chapter. And I have the extended version, so I don't know how much of this is like in the original book, but at the end of the chapter, he does a breakdown of like, man, you think about this, you think he said this, like that's really compelling, isn't it? It's like it's not. And it was that for like what, 15 chapters. And it was I was waiting for him to like maybe bring an atheist in who like doesn't believe in God, but is like, but this is good evidence, I can't really refute this, or like, this story kind of like does match the Gospels. I got none of that. I threw the book down a couple of times. One of them I remember, I don't know what I was expecting. Don't ask me what I was expecting, but he was talking about FBI profiling. And there was this famous FBI profiler who could show up at a scene and like, look at this bit, this bit, this bit, and he can tell you, the person that we're looking for has these qualities, and this qualities. And it was like, great. And then he's like, so we need to see like if, I can't even remember if Jesus matches like the profile of a God or something like that, of God, or of the Messiah or something like that. I haven't read it in a couple of years and I don't want to go back and read it again. And I was like, oh, are you going to bring like an FBI like person, whatever I just said? What I did? Profiler, thank you. Are you going to bring in like an FBI profiler and like read the Gospels and like do that? No, he goes, so I got this professional Christian over here. And I was like, I don't know what I was expecting, but it was just that. It was completely one-sided, biased, just not good. Just not good. Faithfully fishing for facts, I have lost my faith in Christ. I am an atheist. Is that true, or are you trolling? Honest question, genuine question. Are you convinced Jesus was a real person? I always say that I don't have any problem with the idea that there was a dude who existed, made some claims, gained a following, and got executed. That's fine. As far as like a more direct answer, kind of on the fence, there seems to have been a dude, that these stories are based off of. It's like, sure, not really fully convinced. Maybe a bit agnostic on that point, but yeah, people exist. People throughout human history have existed, made claims, gained followings, and gotten executed. That's just kind of a thing. Now, it's true, and you're the first to know. I don't know who to talk to besides an internet rando. Sometimes internet randos are good. Sometimes internet randos are good. Well, if you've lost your faith, how you feeling? Are you okay? You doing all right? I know, everyone's losing faith journey is different. and it can be harder for some people than others. So, like, are you okay? Do you need to talk about it or anything? Because I remember me losing my faith was pretty hard for me. I always get water pooling into my water bottle. I don't like it.
It does do that, doesn't it?
It's like started doing that like recently. I don't know why. How long have I been an atheist? About 3 years-ish. 3 or 4 years. Closer to 3, I think. I think I did like months before I started making content. Or at least atheist content. It's not that hard for me. I still believe in God. I just don't believe in Christianity. I just can't tell my parents because they are Christians. Okay, so you're not an atheist. You're a theist. You're just not a Christian, which is fine. And yeah, I can definitely get that. Hello. I definitely get that being quiet around parents. I was a little bit more vocal, especially like I blew up my Facebook, with my poor defenseless 200 something Facebook friends, speaking out against Christianity and whatnot. So I was a little bit more obnoxious and vocal about it. So they figured out pretty quickly with me. But yeah, it can definitely be a thing, especially with parents. And all parents are different. Some are going to handle that news better than others. I don't know who your parents are or how they might handle it or how old you are. Define yourself, parents' Christianity. What was that? I feel like you might have mistyped something. Define your parents' Christianity. Oh yeah, like what kind of Christianity, I guess. I think John's asking what your denomination and whatnot is, or like how devout they might be. Those are important details. Cat. When you were in church, could you tell the difference between genuine and hypocritical Christians? At times. Depends on the person, depends on the situation, depends on the context, sometimes. Well, it's more that I don't want them to worry about my salvation. Yeah, I definitely get that. I have a lot of, like, heartbroken family and friends who are, like, devastated that I've walked away. Because I was a devout Christian, I would preach a lot, especially on the Facebook, trying to preach Christianity and help people in their faith and whatnot. Some people thought I was being called to become a priest. So I definitely get that. Because it makes me feel bad that they feel bad. Like, I'm fine. It's like, I'm great. I'm better than I was when I was a theist. I'm doing great. We have no reason to believe that this salvation thing is a problem to begin with. And if me losing faith but still being a good person, or at least trying to be a good person, is going to mess with my salvation, that God is kind of a dick and shouldn't be followed anyway, so it kind of doesn't matter. But, try explaining that to them. But I do feel bad a little bit. I don't feel bad. I just kind of hate that that's the system. Like, that we do have family that worry about us and are devastated because we've lost the faith in salvation, even though it's like, we're fine. So I definitely get that. Hello, Dim. You can't preach unless you're married with kids that follow God. What? You can't preach unless you're married with kids that follow God. I don't follow, John. Maybe ask the genuine Christians you knew for the evidence you're looking for. I don't tend to, I don't want to have that conversation with the people I know. The people I know, I love, and they love me, and I try not to bring up this stuff around them because it usually just, I've lost people over this. So I kind of like try to steer away from this conversation with them. Never read the Bible, I assume? I have read the Bible. Yeah, can you cite the verse that say you need to be married with kids? I know in the epistles there's certain rules for like religious leaders, but not just to somebody who, like I was trying to become an apologist. Layman preachers, I guess you could say. I was raised in a Christian Baptist family, but I never really felt like I belonged, but I still go to church, but I just sit there and feel uncomfortable. That's always fun. That's always fun. You could try not going if that's an option for you. I don't know if it is. It's better to not marry. So where are you getting that from? Because in some of the epistles, Paul is operating under the assumption that the world's going to end soon. So he's kind of telling people to stay where they're at and like keep a low profile and just kind of wait for the world to end in some verses. I can understand their worries, but I still don't like feeling constantly judged or scared for me. Don't like feeling constantly scared for me. Also, I don't want to be a cringe Reddit atheist that is openly anti-Jesus and shit. Yeah, don't be like that. I'd like to think I'm a little bit more mellow these days, but like, I made some posts for my poor defenseless 250 Facebook friends. I've been there, and like if you could skip that phase, that'd be probably ideal. Evangelist. Yeah, I was trying to become an evangelist. I wanted to become an evangelist. Or an apologist, sorry. Did I say apologist or did you say it? Now I'm confused at what we said. Apologist is what I was trying to be. 1 Timothy 2:8. I will therefore that men pray everywhere, lifting up holy hands without wrath and doubting. Yeah, so like everyone should do it, ideally. I mean, I feel like the Bible would like everyone to just like spread the faith. Imagine telling the Pope they're not allowed to preach because they aren't married. That's what Paul said. Yeah, Paul said a lot of things. Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween. Depends on how you take on Paul, but not a bad take, to be honest. Hello. I feel like I have to go even though I don't want to. You could I mean, maybe it is something you could try not going, or have that conversation with your family. I don't know how old you are. If you're an adult, it's easier to not be dragged along. 1 Timothy 3:8. Yeah, I got you. There it is. Likewise, must the deacons be grave, not double-tongued, not given to much wine, not greedy of filthy liquor, or lucre, holding the mystery of the faith in a pure conscience. Blameless. Even so must their wives be grave, not slanderers, sober, faithful in all things. Let the deacons be the husbands of one wife, ruling their children and their house as well. So yeah, there's some rules in there for deacons. 21. Yeah, are you still living at home? Anna? I'm a sophomore in high school. I can't really choose not to go to church. And it might be, especially, and again, your parents might be like super cool or they might be like super strict. I don't know. But sometimes it's better when you're still a minor underneath their jurisdiction to just kind of like be a little bit quiet about it. Just kind of sit there, soak it all in, keep thinking, keep marinating on it for a minute, and then maybe make some of your thoughts heard when you're not dependent on them as much. Um, Especially if they might be, the type of strict parents or whatever. But it seems like you're more worried about them worrying about your salvation. But yeah, and I mean, the salvation thing doesn't really get easier, I don't think, regardless of your age. I think that's something that they're going to be freaking out about regardless. Hello. Bring back the tabernacles, more barbecue in the streets. I don't know what that is. Still doesn't seem to suggest that preachers need to be married and bang and have kids. What's the verse about no longer having a sacrifice available for you? The one about trampling on and shed blood. What's that one? I'm not sure which one you're referring to. What? Oh. I'm hoping you're having an awesome day or night. I am having a pretty good night. No, but I'm in an adult group home. How are the... So is it like a Christian home that you're in? Where like everyone's Christian and like you're expected to go to church with everyone? The verse seems to suggest that deacons, if they have kids, need to be faithful and good to them. Not that they must have a kid and start a family in order to preach. Yeah, I think that's kind of what I got. Like their wives must not be grave and not slanderers. They must be sober, faithful in all things. So, I think it's well. I mean, I think it's also just kind of an expectation for most people from the Bible to get married and have kids. That's just kind of like a general expectation. Um, so maybe it's just maybe he's just saying that on the assumption of like, yeah, and your wives, which you have because we all do, make sure they're like this. Maybe he's kind of operating under that assumption. I have no idea. It's hard for me to stop things because I have situational anxiety. So if I stop something that I've done for a very long time, I get really anxious and have to start it again. And no. Well, then, yeah. I don't know. Maybe try like I don't know how often you go to mass. If it's like once a week, maybe try once every other week. Try to wean yourself off, or try it one day and then you can hop back on. If you need, for whatever reason, to go to mass for your mental health, it's fine. Don't worry about it too much. Like you don't have to not go to mass, um, but it might just ride it out and just maybe keep on with some deconstructing and see where that leads you in the future. Might recommend a couple people here in the chat say reach out to Recovering from Religion. That's always a good resource for anyone deconstructing, struggling with deconstructing, needing advice, all of that stuff. It's usually a pretty good source. They're trained counselors who specialize in the area of losing faith, and they're not going to be there to like try to convince you to be an atheist. They're just going to try to help meet you where you're at and help you in whatever way you need help. Just help you sort things out yourself, whatever those things might be and wherever those things might lead you. The Bible says it's okay to be single. Yeah, the Bible doesn't seem like to be against people marrying, or seem to be against people being single. It just kind of does seem to be like an expectation. My hubby said it's Hebrews 10:26. We can look up Hebrews 10:26. I scrolled right past it. Where? No, I didn't. Gosh, I'll learn the Bible someday. I think I talk about it enough. You'd think I'd know a thing or two about it. Hebrews 10:26. For if we sin willingly after that we have received the knowledge of the truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sins, but a certain fearful looking for a judgment and fiery indignation, which shall devour the adversaries. Yeah, there is that. It's like if you've been saved, you know it's wrong, then like you're done fucked up if you do it. Kind of sounds like one of the Bible's fail-safes to keep people in the fold. Sounds like something you might want to go to therapy for. Recovering from religion, I think, would be good. Why marry or have children when they thought the end was near? This is true. This is a good point. Throughout the Bible, that's just kind of like the thing. And then there's a little bit of like pull from Paul, who seems to kind of suggest that like you really just kind of should stay as you are. If you're not married, don't marry and stuff. It's not like there's not an overwhelming emphasis in the epistles of like, hey guys, the end is near, prepare for it. There is just kind of, you can see this underlying understanding that like, hey, we might be living in the end times. Do your parents know you're a pansexual? Yes. Nobody knows when the end is, not even the sun. That's why people have kids. There are some people who, it's so many generations of Christians since, Christianity began, have thought that they were the last generation. They were looking at the signs of the times. They were seeing the reveal of the fulfillment of prophecies and whatnot. And there have been a lot of people who put their lives on hold, who didn't have kids, who, didn't worry about their state, their future, planning for the future, whatever else, because they just thought that the world was going to end and that God was just going to wipe it all away. So they just weren't concerned about it. People did throw their entire lives away over this. And there are still people throwing their lives away because they think that the end times are going to happen in this generation. Which it hasn't happened in any other generation for the past 2,000 years. So, like, probably won't here either. But there are people who still think that way. But you're right. No one's supposed to know. Taylor just walked away, and I can hear myself in the other room. What's not the context of the Bible? All you have to do is ask Jesus to show you with a humble heart, and he will, I promise you, he will if you ask earnestly. I have I used to think I had a great relationship with him. Now I think it was more of an imaginary friend type of situation. Why can no one present evidence that demonstrates the existence of any God interacting with our universe? I don't know. It's almost, not necessarily, but almost like there isn't a God. Almost. That's why I have my doubts. That's why I'm an atheist, just because all this lack of evidence is just a little bit loud in my ears, My dad is one of those people who thinks the world is going to end within his lifetime. Like, to an extent, I do too, but not the biblical sequence of events. Yeah, we're not doing great, like... Even ignoring the Bible, we're not doing very great on this planet right now. I pray that Jesus would open your eyes and ears in Jesus' mighty name. Amen, amen, and amen. I love you, and so does he. Thanks, Melanie. Doom, I do not feel changed after Melanie's prayer. Kitties, 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 kitties. Hey, hey, hey. Be nice to your sisters. Sorry, Snickers and Smokey just like tackled each other into the living room and we're fighting. I'll throw a pillow. They're like kind of fronting on each other right now. Let's throw a pillow in between them. That usually breaks them up. Thank you. I've never really been comfortable with talking about this, but your live feels very comfortable and safe to talk about. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's part of what I'm here for. You know, just talk about. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of stuff. You know, with deconstructing and with questioning and all this stuff. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure my cats don't kill each other. But yeah, that's part of what I'm here for. If you don't feel changed, then that means you hold a deep-rooted resentment towards God, and you hate God. You hate good things and want to be evil. It's always crazy to me. I was listening to The Line the other day, and somebody said something along the lines of like, it's always unbelievers that I hear that hate God. And it was something along those lines. I'm just like, no unbeliever legitimately hates God. Because if you're actually an unbeliever, you don't believe that God exists. So you don't, because he's not there. You can hate the character of God. I hate the God of the Bible. I think he's a disgusting monster. I also hate Voldemort, you know? So it's like, I hate him. I have some strong feelings about him, but not actually in reality. I don't believe he even exists. And people are like, you're an unbeliever because you're mad at something that God has done in your life. I'm an unbeliever, so I don't believe God has done anything to me, good or bad. He's not there for as far as I can see. So I don't know. Voldemort, yeah, fucking Voldemort, man. God exists. This is from a non-Christian, by the way. The universe couldn't have been created by matter because then that would mean that it had to have been created. That's an infinite regress, which is a paradox. The problem with that is, so we have the Big Bang, or the Big Expansion. That's great. We have no idea what happened before that. We have no idea what happened before that or what caused it. Technically, our current idea of time and space didn't exist, so even like saying what happened before doesn't really make sense, because we're talking about something that happened before time began, so before there was a concept of before, in a place outside of space, so it's not within existence, so it doesn't, so it gets complicated, but you got to just be careful not to slide into like God of the Gaps territory of like, how could this possibly happen? It doesn't make sense. Because I get arguments like that. If you look at it logically, mathematically, whatever else, it doesn't fucking make sense. How the universe started, nothing works. No way that we look at it works. I'm just like, I can understand, yeah. And they say, therefore God. I'm not necessarily saying that you're saying this, but then they say, therefore God. It's like I'm led to this giant hole where we're just void of information. And it's like we have no idea what is here. We have no idea like what created the universe or whatever else. And it's just blank. And people will point to that and say, therefore God. And I say, no, therefore hole. It's a hole. It's a gap in our knowledge. And just because we don't know, just because we don't understand something, just because it makes absolutely no sense doesn't mean it necessarily has to have been a God. So just kind of be careful not to slide into that territory. Infinite regress isn't really a paradox. It's just a mere assumption that infinite cannot exist. This is only because we have not observed infinity yet. Yeah, infinity is more of a concept. Is my favorite part of that movie. What was that, Hannah? Is your favorite part of that movie? Or are you saying like nothing or blank is their favorite part? A growing theory is that the universe is infinite in scale, spatially speaking. So for it to be temporarily infinite seems valid too, perhaps. But if we have an infinite past, how did we come to the future? Because infinite doesn't necessarily mean that, I mean, that's not necessarily how infinity works. Infinity doesn't mean that, nothing, we can't have any points on the timeline. It just means that there's infinite points on the timeline. So we're on a point on the timeline now, it just goes in infinite directions, this way and that way. So we can still have, like, timeline points and still be on the timeline and still experience the timeline, even if it's infinite. What do you say when someone sneezes? Hello, I joke, and going to sleep now. Good night. Good night, Zilla. I actually struggle with this. I think Gesundheit or Salud is good ones. Salud just means health in Spanish. I don't know, what does Gesundheit mean? I think it means essentially the same thing. Health, yeah. So Gesundheit, Salud, basically just means health. I think those are good ones to say. Or just, I don't know, say health, I guess. Because I always just remember, I steer away from saying bless you, because how I was taught was from Christian origins. Was like from when we sneeze out like evil spirits, and people give you a blessing so that those evil spirits can't come back in. So the whole bless you thing is just based on this Christian mindset of like nothingness, or at least in some origin stories of it. So I don't believe in that, so I don't really like, and I don't believe in like blessings or anything, so it doesn't feel genuine for me to like say it, but I think Salud and Gesundheit are good, good things to say, because it just means health, wishing you well, I scrolled, and I lost everything. Where am I? Why does an infinite past mean we cannot have the present? I'm not sure. Hello, I'm Christian, so I would typically argue for the existence of God. No, I cannot prove it, but there is evidence, but that's not what I'm going to do. Okay, yo, hello. The part where Voldemort says the boy who lived has come to die. The boy who lived, come to die. It's a pretty good line. So do we just get put in a random point in the timeline for no reason? I mean, I don't believe we got put anywhere, because that kind of implies intention, and I don't believe that there's anything out there with intent and control like that. But it's just like happening. And frankly, I don't understand it any better than you do, but that doesn't mean it has to have been something supernatural. What I'm doing is asking for an alternative. What makes more sense than God? Because I find it hard to believe in a hole or a gap rather than God. So, well, I mean, what I hear when you ask of that is, hey, is this a gap in our knowledge that we don't understand yet, or that we might not ever understand, which there are plenty, or is it this thing that we have absolutely no reason to believe it exists? That's kind of my thing. It's like, and you can come up with whatever concept you want that can fill those gaps, hypothetically, but that doesn't mean that thing actually exists. Like, you can come up with this being must be this, and there I've come up with this idea of a being that would perfectly explain the cosmos. Great, that doesn't mean that being exists. I didn't scroll, it jumped. That's what happened, because I just scrolled down a couple and it shot me down to the bottom. That's why I got lost earlier. What do you make of people who have a near-death experience and claim having an experience in death that lead them to becoming religious after getting another chance at life? There are some people who have those near-death experiences and experience nothing. And there are people who experience things with Allah or Vishnu or, whatever else. A lot of people will experience if they have a supernatural experience, they will have a supernatural experience based on what they've heard that would be. So if you're in a predominantly Christian society, you're probably going to see something like heaven, Nana in the clouds, God, or whatever. If you're in a predominantly Hindu society, you might see, Vishnu or whatever else have you. I think near-death experiences are the brain being deprived of oxygen and being deprived of sense stimuli and not knowing what the fuck is going on and probably panicking because it's failing at its one job. So it's doing a lot. It's doing a lot and trying to do a lot with like nothing. Why do you believe there is no God? I don't really believe that there is no God. I just don't have any reason to believe that there is. Just for reference, set theorists have coined the term omega to refer to the last ordinal in a set, infinite or otherwise. Omega is, in this instance, would be what we call the present. I definitely need God. Okay. Just say bless you, cornball. You know what? You're probably right. You're probably right. I know I'm being weird about it. You could argue from improbability that out of an infinite set, it would be near impossible that we happen to exist at omega, in which case you probably don't exist in the last digit. In that there is time ahead of us, the future is real. Yeah? In other words, the present might not be omega. Who knows? Sounds like an I don't know of the gaps argument, honestly. Well, if there's a gap, then we don't know what's there. It's blank, it's a gap. So I don't know is, I think, the only intellectually honest answer. The problem that I've found with an infinite past is that if the universe is dying, then it would have already done so if the past were infinite, according to the first two laws of thermodynamics. Maybe. Hi. Are you done fighting your sister? Okay. Doom, you said something that, yes?
I want a sweet treat, but I don't know what I want.
You have old Ben and Jerry's. You have like five different things of ice cream in the freezer. And a bowl of candy. And probably Oreos somewhere. I mean, I did buy a new pack of Oreos, but I wouldn't surprise me if you had some kind of snack, like a little container of Oreos or something that you have bought, a thing of gummy bears or gummy worms. Which I guess that doesn't help you narrow down what.
No, not at all.
It explains to you how many options you have, which is a lot.
It doesn't feel like a lot. It does, but doesn't. Like when I say sweet treat, I mean like a sundae or something. I don't fucking know, like a sundae or milkshake or something like.
Yeah, I get you. Also, when we talk about like the probability of this universe, we don't have any other universes to compare it to. We don't have any way of knowing what the probability is. As far as we can tell, the probability of us existing at this point in time is 100%, as far as we can tell. We have no idea, we have no way to gauge that probability. Stop trying to sound smart, we exist. I know we exist. It's just all the whys and the hows. And the problem that I've found with an infinite past is... I'm sorry, I already read that. Yeah. And I mean, I don't understand the secrets to the universe any more than any of you do. You know? It's weird. It's crazy. It doesn't make sense, but that doesn't mean it has to have been this specific thing that we've come up with. What do you really want?
The strawberry shortcake stuff from Longhorn.
Yeah. We really started liking Longhorn. Too expensive though.
Maybe one day we can go just for dessert.
Maybe. Isn't it strange that the whole universe is mathematically designed? It seems like the universe just works the way it works because that's how it works, and that's how it was able to work. And that the universe just operates in a set way. And it works that way because it works that way, as far as I can tell. It isn't mathematically designed. We design mathematics around how the universe works. That is true too. Well, to be fair, math is just logic working. I mean, math, logic, reasoning is all just a part of us trying to figure out what the hell is going on. However well or poorly we're doing that, is up for discussion. But it's just us trying to figure out what's going on. So a lot of our logic and reasoning and math and stuff is based on the universe because that is, as Doom said, that is what we're basing it off of. Are you good? Are you ordering something? Are you ordering Longhorn Steakhouse?
Not Longhorn.
Who's open? Old Chicago's not open at 10:30 at night to deliver you ice cream. I refuse to believe.
Cookie or brownie?
I think I would go with brownie, but that's just me. That's fine if you don't know. Obviously, with how we are finite and moral, we can't know everything. Mortal, we can't know everything. But then why is it wrong to give a reason, God, and say, I don't know after that? Or I don't know because I can't? It's not. I think it just depends on how much you put on this idea of a God. If you say it has to have been a God, because some people take it to, it has to have been a God, therefore science is wrong, therefore we can't trust science. And that's not going to get us anywhere good. Some people take it a route of, it must have been a God, and it's my God with these set of rules, and so I need to help convert everyone to my religion, or push my religion in the field of politics to make it law, to make everyone follow my religion. It can get fuzzy when it's not an issue of saying, like, maybe it was a God, but, like, I don't really know, kind of the agnostic theist route. But it does become a problem when you say, it's got to be this. I don't have evidence, but it's got to be this. So we have to form our lives like this. That's when it kind of becomes an issue, I think. Mathematics, however, can explore hypotheticals if we apply our mathematical laws to abstract concepts, taking the universe to a logical extreme, in other words, things that aren't necessarily a part of our universe. If you give a reason, but then follow it up by saying you don't know, then giving that reason was kind of pointless because it's not giving the reason to believe in it. Yeah. I gotta go. Sorry, thanks. Thanks for stopping by, Zachariah. I do hope to see you again. I usually go live every Tuesday night at around 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, and I try to squeeze in some other lives throughout the week, but not always. I believe it's fine to say I don't know. I just believe that we cannot know. I'm sorry, I didn't read that well. I believe it's fine to say I don't know. I just believe that we cannot know, while God being the best explanation. The problem is there's still no good evidence for a God. So like I was saying earlier, it might be a concept that we've formed that can fill the gaps. If this being existed, it would fill the gaps, but there's still an if there. We still have to prove that being exists. We can't just say it would make sense if this being existed. A total absence of evidence makes it not the best explanation. God is just an easy concept for us to understand, which is why it has been so common throughout human history. Yeah, I think the supernatural, from the looks of it, just with the severe lacking of evidence for it, seems to just be, it seems to stem from our lack of understanding of the unknown. I think the idea of a god or the supernatural stems from the very first time that a human or a human ancestor saw something happen, a lightning strike, an eclipse, the changing of seasons, just something happen and saying, I don't know what is happening. It must be something divine or something supernatural or magic. And I think that's probably where this idea of a god and supernatural comes from. It just comes out of, I don't know. Because you have to remember, people used to attribute supernatural causes to natural phenomenon, insect swarms, disease, natural disasters, changing of seasons, the sun rising and setting, um, meteor strikes, whatever else have you. People didn't know what it was. They didn't have a good explanation, so they say it must be, this god or this being or these spirits or this. Plenty of cultures throughout human history have come up with a variety of supernatural explanations. But the problem is we now have better, more scientific, evidence-based explanations for these things that don't need God. We have no need for that hypothesis. It doesn't need to be a God for these ideas that we have of these things to exist. So we've kind of taken this pretty much God of the gaps concept of, I don't know what's going on, therefore it must be divine, and we've started filling in those gaps with things that we actually have good, credible reason to believe. And so it just doesn't make sense to me to continue to put God in those gaps when that method of thinking has demonstrably failed us multiple times throughout, many times throughout human history. It's kind of the way I look at it. If God exists everywhere that science has not yet explored, then God is an ever-receding pocket of scientific ignorance. Yeah, I think that's a good. I think that's a good way to put it. I've heard his quote on that. God seems to be an ever-receding pocket of scientific ignorance. I don't know. And furthermore, I think I don't know. I feel like some kind of all-powerful creator being of the universe should be able to make itself known, should be able to make itself clear. I especially use this when it comes to the Christian God, which I know we're not, talking about specific gods, but I often use this first for specifically the Christian God, the omni God, all loving, all knowing, all powerful, all this stuff. And an all-knowing God would know what it would take to convince people that he exists. An all-powerful God would be able to do what it takes to make people believe he exists. And an all-loving God would want to do what it takes to make people believe he exists so that he can have a relationship with them and save them. And the fact that he's not doing that is... the silence is loud. The silence is very, very loud. Yeah, God is just an inference to the best explanation for most people. Modern naturalism and panpsychism doesn't have anything to definitely say how our consciousness came to be in a universe that starts with unconscious matter. Yeah, consciousness is weird. The brain, don't get me started, especially because I don't understand it myself. So don't get me started. I'll trip after 2 steps. Even people who understand the brain don't understand the brain. There's still so much about consciousness and the brain and stuff that we don't understand. An interventionalist God seems nigh impossible. A non-interventionalist God is infallible and simultaneously unprovable and yet impossible. It gets complicated. And we get into the weeds, it gets complicated. Wouldn't it contradict free will if he showed himself? So we have no way of rejecting him? We already have enough evidence historically. I don't think we have enough evidence. I don't think we have any evidence at all. And belief isn't a free will choice. You are either convinced enough of something to warrant a belief or you're not. You don't really get to choose your beliefs. So that's not a free will thing anyway. So the only thing we could worry about this God violating is if we decide to follow him or not. Which there are some of us, myself included, who even if any of the proposed gods of the proposed religions that we have showed up, I still wouldn't follow them. So I would still have my free will to not follow them. It wouldn't be a violation of free will. And then if we're talking about the God of the Bible, he violates free will a number of times, so it doesn't really matter anyway. Free will doesn't necessarily matter to him anyway. Fire is not conscious, yet it self-organizes and expands and grows and parallels life in many ways. Yet it is not conscious. Life is just another chemical reaction, a very complex one. So complex we forgot how archaic we really are, perhaps. And stuff becomes so complicated and so crazy and weird and nonsensical that maybe it is something divine or supernatural. Do you believe in electricity, bro? Yeah, I do. I have reason to believe in electricity. Isn't humans inclined to pick the good option over the bad one? Like God says, we'll be eternally separated if we don't follow him. Some of us won't be bullied. The God of the Bible is a monster. I'm not going to bow to him, no matter what he offers me or threatens me with, but that's just me. Electricity was invented by the Illuminati. How did your parents react when you came out to them? It's not really a conversation that's been had. They know, because I've been vocal about it on the interwebs, but we haven't had very many face-to-face conversations. And they know, I mention it here and there, they know. It's just kind of I guess they didn't, is the short answer. They kind of didn't. Why do you believe he's a monster? He supports things like genocide, slavery, misogyny, and child abuse, and child murder in some instances. God has made himself known to us. If you are talking about the Christian God, then yes, his very words says in Job, in that. I'll go ahead and look that up. But why should I care what the Bible says? I'll go ahead and look up the verse for you, because I'm nice like that. Why should I care what the Bible says?
I'm surrounded by kitties.
Kittens. 34, 14, 15. 34, nope, 35. 34, 14, 15. 34, 14, 15. If he set his heart upon man, if he gathered unto himself his spirit and his breath, all flesh shall perish together, and man shall turn again unto dust. If now thou hast understanding, hear this, hearken to the voice of my words. Okay. What about that? How are you going to quote Job trying to convert someone? Job is literally a story of God being a humongous dick to one of his best followers. God's having a meeting with a lot of his angels and stuff, and Satan just kind of walks in, just hey, what's up, dog? In some version of the story, I've already been kicked out of this joint, but what's up, dog? And God's hey, where you been? And Satan's I've been around. I've been, bopping around and whatever else. And God's so you probably noticed my servant Job. Look at how righteous and amazing he is. And Satan's well, yeah, of course he's going to be nice to you and faithful to you because you've given him so many blessings. How is he supposed to go against you? If you took away his blessings, he'd probably turn away from you. And God says, bet, and let Satan devastate Job. Devastate him. And then Job is sitting in a pile of ashes, trying with his friends surrounding him, trying to console him. And then God comes and gets pissed off at him for being sad, and then says shape up, I can do whatever the fuck I want. And Job's you know what, you're right, and he offers sacrifice. And then God gives him a bunch of stuff and makes his life better and gives him twice as much as he had before. Even though like some things are not replaceable, like the human beings, the children. But God gave Job more children. Children aren't like property. Like, if you took 5 water bottles from me and then gave me 5 water bottles back, that's great. Human life, human beings, children, your loving offspring are not water bottles. They're not objects. So the whole Job story is fucked completely. You should care because God is the creator of all things. He created you. Prove it. If you're talking about the story of the Amalekites, I think it was pretty justified since they were sacrificing babies, killing old, sick child, and was going to eventually spread evil to the land. Oh, I'm not just talking about to the Amalekites. I'm talking about to the Canaanites, the Egyptians, Sodom and Gomorrah, the planet. There's plenty of genocides that God either commits or what's the word I'm looking for? Commands in the Bible. God is a rage baiter, maybe. The NLT version says it this way. Okay. Gotta love Good Omens and how they depicted that. I did watch... I feel like I would like that show. I've seen scenes from like that part of the Job part, and I liked it. I think I would like the show. At least some of the bits that I've seen. At least when they're like going through like the biblical stuff. You would love Good Omens. I like biblical shows. I even love The Chosen. I don't know if anyone has seen The Chosen. I love it. And shout out, I don't know who it was, but somebody said that, because I'm like, I don't have anywhere to watch it because I'm not going to pay for a subscription. Somebody said that the Chosen app is free. So I just downloaded the Chosen app and watched it there. And then it's on something else that I have access to watch.
Is it Prime?
I think it might be Prime that I have access to. So I was able to watch it. I love the show. I love it. I think it's amazing. I definitely have to turn off my analytical brain to watch it, but just watching it for the story and like rooting for Jesus as the good guy, I think it's a great show. I love it. Not biblically accurate necessarily, but I like it. But yeah, Good Omens is on my radar. If God were to take back his spirit and withdraw his breath, all life would cease and humanity would turn again to dust. Prove it. Do you know when y'all are moving officially? No. I've not gotten that date yet. We're still waiting. Well, so some good news. We're going through the process. We already did like the inspection and whatnot, and we're dealing with like some repairs and stuff. The appraisal, like figuring out how much the house is worth and all this stuff, is a whole other process. And we qualify to skip that process because of things. So that's less money that we have to spend. We don't have to spend money on appraisal, and it saves us that chunk of time. So our lender's like, I'm just waiting for some title work, and then we can close. So like, it could be in the next like week. Could be the very, very key word there. But nothing solid. I honestly have no idea. Ready to be out as soon as possible. Especially because this house isn't ours anymore. We've already sold this house. The buyer is just someone we know who is super duper cool and doesn't have to be out of his place for another month or two. So he's letting us stay here with paying some rent, which is fine, but he's letting us stay here to have time for this limbo. I'm not a squatter. We are going to pay rent. We haven't paid it yet because it's only been like a week, but
Temporary tenants.
Temporary tenants. Temporary tenants is the word. So like, it's not even our house. It's just like
We are homeless.
technically.
Technically.
I mean, we started this process back in May. So that's when we like put our house on the market and shit. So it's just like this. Come on. Halloween is coming up. We usually on August 1st decorate the house for fall. put fall decorations, and then mid-September we decorate for Halloween. We didn't decorate for fall because we're moving. We're packing up and moving. Really want to hurry up and get in the new house before October and deck it out for Halloween. Ready for it. But it'll happen when it happens. If God is like he is depicted in the Old Testament, which is frankly the only reference we have to him, I would rather be wrong and burn in hell for all eternity than worship someone as sadistic as that. Yeah. It's pretty messed up. It's pretty messed up. And even in the New Testament, in Acts, in the early church, people who are a part of the church were selling all of their land and property and whatnot and giving the money to the church. And this couple sold their stuff and withheld some of the money and then lied about it, and God struck them down. So even in the New Testament, God's just murdering people for, going against him, for daring to defy him. It's pretty messed up. Pretty awful. Not something that we should be doing. Hi, kitten. Hi. She just got her paws on me.
You see this one on me? Surrounded by kitties.
Only two of them, though. I don't know where Smokey went. Read the New Testament. If you're only reading the Old Testament, you're basing off the Old. I've read both. You read both to get the whole story. The Bible has 66 books. Yes, you should read all of them. The only reference we have to him, the Old Testament is really when God's doing stuff. He kind of in the New Testament is, you kind of see a transition in the Old Testament from more of a physical being with human-like qualities, anthropomorphic being who can walk around, can settle on things, who has a back and, more physical traits and stuff, and is more active, to kind of what we have now, this God that's off in heaven in another dimension looking out for us and does magical stuff, and a more detached and formless. So yeah, the Old Testament is really where we have the most of God. And it's bigger than the New Testament, so it makes sense. But the Old Testament is really where we have the most of him doing his stuff and showing himself and showing who he is and giving commandments and stuff.
Did I ever just kitten?
Kittens. There's kittens. There's a kitten.
One.
Hold on, let me just remove you. Kitten.
One kitten.
And kitten. Snickers and peanuts. And then, like I said, Smokey ran off somewhere. I don't know where she is. 100%, if you read the entire Bible, I have many times it was... 100%, you read the entire Bible. I have many times it was once my goal in life to become a priest, but after reading the Bible and researching the history of it, going through Bible history classes, and dealing with the church, it just 100% was not something I wanted in my life. I was trying to become an apologist. I wanted to go and debate and preach and spread Christianity. And so I dove into my stuff towards that end and came to the same conclusion by similar means. It's interesting. Whomst lays their paws on the Snickers. If you read the Bible, then you really don't know who God... What? If you've read the Bible, then you really don't know who God is. Okay. They're bigger than you remember? They're not. They've always been big. And you're just big, fluffy. They're well-fed. Little kitty cats.
Tried to put them on a diet. Didn't help much.
No, they're just kind of big kitties. Sweet girl.
Got him a kitten to try and help with exercise. Didn't really help out too much.
Snickers was just wrestling with her a minute ago.
Like they're a little bit lazy house cats, but like not lazy.
The massive problem is that what we see as the canon Bible wasn't even adopted until like 450, and where the church essentially sat down and said that we need something that we can give to everyone. Yeah, there's been talks throughout the church of like what books are going to be canon and what parts aren't. Certain books and chapters and verses got kicked out, and some got thrown back in or thrown in. So, yeah. When you first panned the camera down, I low-key thought Snickers was a medium-sized dog. Close enough. I mean, the pet carrier that we have, that we usually put Snickers and Peanut in together, is like a medium-sized dog pet carrier.
Yeah.
And then Smokey has her own smaller carrier, because you can't put all three of them in a carrier together because they will try to kill each other. I've learned this. It didn't go well. Those people, those very mortal people, left out a book or something that was very much supposed to be in the Bible. I'm sure they did it for a few things. Basically the same thing, yeah. Yeah, you know, there was decisions made for reasons as to what went in the Bible and what didn't, what's canon, what's not. And then even among the canon books that they chose, there was revisions and tuning to try to make it more of one solid story. And there's different patches and additions and subtractions that were made towards that end. And you can kind of tell when you're reading through it. As you look through the translations of the Bible from the original Hebrew, you see that each generation has slowly added and changed the definition of things and just outright incorrectly interpreted. Yeah, it's been a mess. So who even knows what the original stories were, or if they were anything solid at all? Warping the meaning of the Bible as we have it today, so as not to far cry. So it is not a far cry to say that someone back in 450 AD decided not to include something in similar reasons. Yeah, the Bible is filled with evidence of God's character and who He is. He is real if you seek Him. The Bible is filled with claims of God's character and who He is. The biblical narrative is the claim. It's not the evidence. There's no evidence within the Bible. Because it's all just a book of claims. So we need more exterior of the Bible, extra biblical evidence to back it up. God's character is definitely spread throughout the Bible. He's not a good guy. He's not a good guy. What can you do? I do think that morally ambiguous at best, malicious at worst. Yeah. I do think that is where I'm going to end this stream. I've been going for a minute. Thank you all so much for being here. It was a nice chill stream, had some good conversations. Tried to help some people, you know, who were dealing with various forms of deconstruction or whatever else have you. Always good. Always happy to help in whatever way I can. I'm an idiot. I'm not an expert on anything, so I can only hope that anything that I post or do is helpful in any way, shape, form, or capacity, or at least sensical in any way, shape, form, or capacity. There's a lot of these live streams where I end it and I turn to Taylor and I'm just like, did I say anything that made sense? Like I just hope that something competent and useful and helpful comes out of my mouth during these live streams. But I usually go live every Tuesday night at about 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I also try to sprinkle some extra live streams throughout the week if I can. So hopefully I'll see y'all around. Thank you for being here. Even those who just lurked and didn't comment, that's perfectly fine. Any amount of support is greatly appreciated. I'm a random nobody on the internet. I don't feel like I deserve anyone's time of day. So the fact that anyone is willing to give me even a second of their day is really cool. You know, people sticking around, chatting, liking, subscribing, whatever is also really cool. So thank you sincerely for being here and for all of your support, and hope to see you around, and have a good rest of your night, day, whenever you're watching this. Bye. Bye.